Hello, Council Presidents. My name is Heidi P. Coy, and I am the Texas PTA Treasurer. We're going to discuss today how you as a council can assist the local PTAs with financial matters. We're going to start with financial basics. Some of this information you probably know, but I think it's important that we kind of go over some financial 101. So first off, we'd like to talk about budgets. The Budget and Finance Committee, which is chaired by the Treasurer, develops the proposed budget for the next fiscal year, which is presented to the membership at the last meeting of the current fiscal year. So you will need to check the standing rules for any language regarding who serves on the committee. And of course, it is the current treasurer who serves as chair. And remember, a budget must be in place at all times. That's why it's very important that locals and even the council has a budget approved at the last membership meeting or delegate meeting in the case of a council. Amendments are made throughout the year when necessary. So if a fundraiser does not raise the necessary amount of funds, the expenses will need to be amended to match the income from the fundraiser. At the beginning of the fiscal year, when a board meets and presents their plans of work, the budget will be amended based upon those plans of work, and that amended budget will be approved at the first membership meeting of the fiscal year, which is normally in September for most units. So next we're going to talk about financial reports. We have to remember that there's separate reports for the board meetings and the membership meetings or delegate meetings for councils. We have to remember that the dates of the reports are important. The financial reports only reflect the period of the dates that are being represented. For instance, if you have a membership meeting September 10th, the beginning date of the financial report will be the first of the fiscal year to September 10th. Then if you have another membership meeting in October, let's say October 15th, the date of that financial report will be September 11th through October 15th. So it's very important that locals and the councils understand that financial reports are only the dates are based upon the reporting period. It's okay to have a year-to-date number on the report, but you still have to report the income and expenses that happen between the membership meeting. And the same applies for the board meetings. So you would not use the same report that you present at a board meeting for a membership meeting. There are various types of reports that you have. Of course, you have the financial report, which states the beginning balance, the income, the expenses, and then the ending balance. You have a budget report, which shows your current budget in place. And then you can also have a budget versus actual report, which shows where you are with your year-to-date numbers on the actual side versus what your budget is. Another thing that we need to keep in mind are escrow accounts. And when I say escrow accounts, I'm talking about I would call it a general ledger account. So it's included on your financial report, but it's separate from your budget because we do not budget for escrow accounts. So these funds are collected on behalf of others. This is not designated funds. And examples are the sales tax that we collect when we sell taxable items, and then the state and national dues, the receipt when we collect membership, as well as the payment when you submit the dues to Texas PTA. So keep in mind that escrow accounts are not to be used as a savings account. Texas PTA, or excuse me, local units and councils do not have savings accounts. And you do not put designated funds in escrow accounts because designated funds are a part of the budget unless you have a separate bank account for designated funds. And then in that case, you would have a separate financial report and you would have a separate budget for the designated funds bank account. So let's talk about sales and use tax. So if a PTA sells taxable items not on one of the 2 tax-free days, which is allowed by the Texas State Comptroller's Office, they must obtain a sales and use tax permit. So anytime a local or council sells taxable items, for instance, t-shirts, not on one of the 2 tax-free days, they must collect sales tax. I always recommend that when you do sell taxable items, that you include the sales tax in the price of the item. And on the form, you can say price includes sales tax. For instance, if you sell a t-shirt for $10 and your tax rate is 8.25%, then you are actually collecting $9.24 for the t-shirt, and 76 cents is sales tax. And that 76 cents in sales tax would be recorded in the escrow account. So it does not reflect the income for the PTA because that money does not belong to the PTA. You do not apply for a sales tax permit for making sure that you are listed with the comptroller as a tax-exempt entity. You would use the form AP 207 to apply for tax exemption with the state. And you can actually go online to the Texas State Comptroller's Office and verify whether you are listed as a tax-exempt entity. And remember that you are required to have the permit before selling items outside the declared tax-free days. PTAs are exempt from paying sales tax on purchases for the PTA, and you would provide the vendor with a sales and use tax exemption certificate, and they actually may require a letter of good standing, which you can obtain a letter of good standing and the letter of determination from the IRS by emailing finance@txpta.org. That they will send you a letter of good standing and the letter of determination as long as your PTA is in good standing with Texas PTA. And that is part of the standards of continuing affiliation. And as we discussed, PTAs must collect tax on taxable sales and remit sales tax to the state comptroller. And when you, for instance, buy bulk t-shirts that you are reselling, you would provide a Texas sales and use tax resale certificate. And refer to non-taxable and taxable publications from the Texas State Comptroller's Office. And as a council, that might actually be in the CP folder that you have access to. And if not, feel free to email me and I can send you the information as well. So remember, there is a difference between taxable and non-taxable items. So we discussed the tax-free days. So the PTAs may hold 2 one-day 24 consecutive hours tax-free sales. And this is for when the PTA is the determined seller. Remember, brochure sales, the Texas State Comptroller's Office states that the PTA is not the determined seller. So if the PTA is not determining the price of the items that you are selling, that means that you are not the determined seller. PTAs can also participate in the statewide tax-free weekend, and it does not count as one of the 2 days. So if you can do pre-sales for, let's say, school supplies in May, and you can have them all delivered the weekend of the tax-free weekend provided by the state, and that would not be required for you to use one of your 2 tax-free days. So as long as you collect all the orders by a certain date and have them all delivered on the same day, you can use that as a tax-free day. PTAs are required to complete the reporting process. Most of the PTAs are annually, but some have been set up as quarterly. So if you are an annual file, those are due by January 20th of each month. And if you file quarterly, let's say you're set up from January to March, the first quarter would be due around April 20th. So let's talk about the IRS, which everybody loves. Councils and local units are required to file the Form 990. And remember, we're not paying taxes. We are simply filing a information return. There are 3 different types of 990 forms that a PTA can file. You have the 990N, which is for gross receipts up to $50,000. You have the 990EZ, which is for gross receipts from $50,000 to $200,000. And then you have the Form 990, which is for gross receipts to $200,000 and greater. So the 990N is free, and you file that directly online with the IRS. You simply answer, I think it's 7 to 8 questions. You do not need your financials in front of you. It's very simple, and the whole process takes about 15 minutes if you're having to create an account. The 990EZ and the 990 can be filed online, and we highly recommend that you file electronically because the standards of affiliation require that the 990 is filed within 60 days of the fiscal year end. So an example would be efile.form990.org, and you can file for free for the 990EZ if your gross receipts are less than $100,000. So I recommend that you use this program, or excuse me, this service. And if you do gross more than $100,000, please budget for the fee that they charge for filing online. This will help expedite the acceptance by the IRS, and it will actually help you if there is a mistake or a missing form. Because remember, if you're sending the paper copy off to the IRS and you're missing a form, they're not going to call you. 3 months later, they're going to send you a letter, and let's hope you get it in the mail. And then it could be, 4 months later by the time you figure it out, and it can just delay the process. So we highly recommend that you file your 990 forms electronically. And any newly organized PTAs must file in the fiscal year their EIN was obtained. So if they were organized in March or April, they still need to file the 990 for that fiscal year. And please remember that every PTA and council has their own EIN. Please do not use the Texas PTA EIN. On the 990 EZ and 990, you are asked for a group exemption number, and that number is 1889. You can also find that information in the Texas PTA Resource Guide, which you can find online at txpta.org/treasurer. And again, I can't stress how important it is that you file electronically. And please remember to have your local units file that 990. So we're going to discuss protecting your PTA with insurance. It is highly recommended that every PTA have officer liability coverage. If a member or outsider files suit against the PTA, coverage is provided for the PTA and personal assets of its officers. You also have general liability, property coverage, and fidelity bond coverage. There's also a coverage for social media, media. So you actually might want to look into that coverage as well. And if you have questions regarding insurance, please feel free to reach out to Steve or myself. Steve is the Director of Finance with Texas PTA. And you can also contact your insurance company, and they will be more than happy to assist you. So let's talk about something that local units have a lot of questions on. It is the financial reconciliation, which is conducted at least annually at the end of the fiscal year. It can also be conducted when an authorized check signer is added or removed on any, it has to be conducted when any authorized check signer is added or removed on any bank account, and any time deemed necessary by the president or 3 or more members. I have also come across several elementary schools who have a high volume of transactions between the start of their fiscal year in December, and they have started doing a mid-year financial reconciliation. It just helps to make sure that their accounts are in order and that everything has been documented properly. So authorized check signers may not serve on this committee, nor anyone related by blood or marriage, or anyone living in the same household as the signer. The secretary and incoming treasurer may not serve on this committee. And also remember that a financial reconciliation committee is performed on all accounts of the PTA. So if the PTA has a designated funds, it's a separate bank account, they will be required to do a financial reconciliation on that designated funds bank account. So on the Texas PTA website, there is a checklist. I highly recommend that everybody download that document and provide it to the Financial Reconciliation Committee. So as a council, I would recommend that close to the end of the school year, that y'all send the document and link out to your local units. This will help them know where to obtain the information that they need. Remember, councils do not perform financial reconciliations for units. You may assist and ask and answer questions, but you cannot go in there and just perform the financial reconciliation. If there are theft or fraud, when theft and fraud is suspected, you need to contact your FSR and Texas PTA immediately. So if a local unit reaches out to you, please feel free to email me and the FSR or Steve Ginsburg. We will help you through the process of what steps need to take place. But always remember that they need to conduct a financial reconciliation first. Banking. So the president of every local unit and council needs to appoint a non-signer to review the bank statements or the debit card, or if you have a credit card. You also have, if you use something like Square, they should be reviewing that statement as well. The statement review form is given to the secretary, and the report is presented during a board meeting. And this is something that's new. It's very important that we be transparent. So if there is some type of issue or cause for concern on procedural matters when it comes to the financial bank statement, the secretary can present that report to the executive board. And again, the statements for every account need to be reviewed. And remember, this is an insurance requirement. E-commerce policy. Local units must adopt a policy in order to use credit or debit cards. You can adopt a separate policy and review it annually as a PTA, or you can add the language into your standing rules. But remember, you must include the minimum language in the Texas PTA e-commerce policy in your standing rules or the separate policy. So you can't make up a rule that does not apply or follow the Texas PTA procedures or policies. We discussed this earlier. So sometimes as a PTA or council, local PTA or council, you are asked for a 501c3 letter. That letter does not exist. So what Texas PTA can provide you is a letter of good standing and the IRS Determination Letter, because the IRS Determination Letter is not issued in the name of each individual local PTA or council. It is issued in the name of Texas PTA. So it actually states PTA Texas Congress. And all of the local units in good standing and councils are grouped under our IRS Determination Letter. And remember, you can request both by emailing finance@texaspta.org. You'll want to include your full local PTA or council name, as well as the unit number. Now, let's talk more about how councils can help the local leaders. So you need to set a good example at the delegate meetings. Be prepared, make sure your agenda is ready. You're presenting your financial reports. You are making the appropriate amendments. You are appointing the committees, special committees in time. You're having your election for the nominating committee properly. Ensure local units have filed the appropriate 990 within 60 days of the fiscal year. And you can check this on the Google roster. And hopefully all of y'all have access to that roster. And if you don't, please feel free to reach out to myself, Marisol Randall. She's the Vice President of Field Service. And you can also contact your field service rep. They should be able to help you. I suggest that at the beginning of this next school year, you start checking that roster and start emailing the local units to make sure that they are filing their 990. As a council, it's important that you offer training, not just basics. Try offering training on how the election of the nominating could look like. Or how about financial reconciliation? It's important that as a council leader that you're working with your field service rep. If you have not made contact with your field service rep, please email Marisol Randall, which is VP F as in Frank, and S as in Sam at txpta.org, and she will be able to make that connection for you. Consult with myself, the Texas PTA Treasurer, or Steve Ginsburg, the Director of Finance, to ensure you are giving the most correct and complete information in regards to financial matters, because we all know things do change. Now, we want to make sure that we're communicating regularly with our local units. So as the council president or the council treasurer, you want to make sure that you are reminding the local units about due dates. Sales tax is a very important one, because even if you have not collected any sales tax during your reporting period, you are still required to submit a sales tax return and just showing that 0 taxes are due, because if they don't, they will be charged a $50 late fee. And a lot of times they include an estimated amount of taxes owed. Remind them about submitting dues and roster to Texas PTA on a regular basis. They need to do this at least monthly. They can do this weekly or bi-monthly, especially at the beginning of the year when the memberships are coming in. It actually helps the membership and the treasurer to make sure that the numbers are balancing correctly. Alert your local units of email scams. How many times have you received an email that says, hey, I want you to go purchase gift cards? Well, we know we don't do anything via email. I get an email 2 or 3 times a month at least saying that Texas PTA president wants me to go and write checks. Well, I know that's not true. So I always text her and say, hey, I got this email just to let you know. And we always laugh because we know that's not standard procedures. So as long as you're following the financial procedures set in place, hopefully no one falls victim to email scams. So always tell them to pick up the phone and call whoever they think is asking for the request. Share Texas PTA emails with your local units on the council's social media outlets. For instance, when I send a Treasurer's Corner or even Marnie with her membership matters, be sure and forward that to your local unit presidents and make sure that they received it. Ask them to forward it onto their board. You want to share best practices, and remember to respond in a timely manner, because local units, they do need your assistance. That's what a council is for. Their number one priority is supporting the local units. And remember to choose your words wisely. Have you submitted your 990 versus have you paid your taxes? Because we don't pay taxes to the IRS. We only submit an information return. However, we do pay sales tax because we're making a payment based upon the amount of sales tax we collected. Encourage locals to budget for launch, which is very important. As a council leader, attending launch during the summer is a huge benefit for local units. Encourage them to purchase insurance. I'm not really for sure on the percentage of PTAs that have insurance and the ones that don't, but I do think it's very important they understand how it can protect them as an individual and as a PTA. Encourage them to budget for the honorary life membership and the extended service awards. And please remind them about the Texas PTA Star Co-op online marketplace, where they can purchase membership envelopes, the resource guide, the Texas PTA Treasurer software. And as well as you have shoppta.com, where you can order all sorts of PTA merchandise. So again, my name is Heidi Picoy, and I'm the State Treasurer. I'm here to assist you with any questions that you have. And please don't forget about your assigned field service rep they will be able to assist you as well. I want to thank you for taking time to watch my webinar today, and please do not hesitate me if you have any questions. Thank you.